Hello and welcome to From the Helm, live here at the Gather Round Conference for Resources Rising Stars in partnership with Bell Financial Group. I'm Grady Wulff, Market Analyst with Bell Direct, and I'm thrilled to have a guest now that I haven't spoken to before on our series, Chris Stevens, Managing Director and CEO of Coda Minerals, the 100% owner of the Elizabeth Creek Copper Project. Copper's where it's at right now. Chris, talk to us about the project and what's been happening over the last 12 months.
Thanks for having me on, Grady. Coda Minerals listed 4 years ago.
Yep.
I always start my speech with saying, look, I'm unashamedly an economist.
Okay.
I see the fundamental supply and demand of copper is something that the markets won't be able to fight eventually.
Yeah.
And we looked at copper, it must have been about 5-6 years ago, started farming into these assets. We listed 4 years ago. And look, copper projects are getting metallurgically more challenging and they're getting deeper. We are blessed at Elizabeth Creek. 25% of our resources are in open pits.
Oh, wow.
Even the lowest grade of those open pits is over 1% in the production target, 1% primary copper, about 1.7 when you do a copper equivalent with the cobalt and silver. Then we have an underground deposit. It's a very large deposit, over 40 million tons at 1.9% in the metals. So we've got over 1 million tons contained. It's primarily in relatively shallow open pit, or again, a relatively shallow, so 400-meter underground. Beautiful mining conditions. It's an incredibly soft shale sandwiched between two very hard sandstones. And it is in the best place on the planet to be developing a mine right now in South Australia. So we lead a blessed life at Elizabeth Creek. It's a great project.
Absolutely. Now, copper obviously is a commodity of the year. There's so much demand and there's an outlook for high demand to come and undersupply of high quality and high grade copper to come. How does this provide tailwinds for Coda right now?
I think that the thing that everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people misunderstand about mineral economics is they see all commodities as similar.
Yeah, no.
No. And copper is an enormous market, about $265 billion US. I said at a speech in February we'd see volatility for the next 6 to 9 months, and wow, we're seeing volatility.
I think the markets as a whole are pretty crazy right now.
Absolutely. So when you've got a market which is, roughly 20 times the size of lithium, 30 times the size of cobalt, you've got a big market. Where are the tailwinds coming from? Most copper, 80% of copper is produced by 20 companies. Those deposits are starting to run out. We're not seeing the replacement. We definitely, unlike some commodities where you're seeing big world-class discoveries happen on a daily basis, even the best of the copper discoveries are still relatively small and often quite challenging, both metallurgically, depth, location. And so for us in South Australia with a relatively shallow, high-grade deposit, again, world's most renewable energy grid, access to a lot of infrastructure, hugely supported government, that's a big tailwind. So you've got the market and then you've got the location. And I think those are things that maybe people miss.
Yeah, there's not much on the radar about copper in Adelaide, so it's good to know the government's behind you and supporting every project that Coda does have. Talking about the project, the Elizabeth Creek project, can you give us an update on where you're at, what stage you're at, drilling, what grades, and obviously a timeline to production if you have one?
Yes, we listed off the 2 open pits with a bit of an exploration hypothesis, which turned out to be mostly correct. We defined and turned MD Bluff into a major resource. An Oz Minerals presentation a while ago put us at the 11th largest primary copper deposit in Australia, full stop. Just MD Bluff, so without the open pits as well. Over the last year, we've been heavily focused on really improving the recoveries. So we got into this project and the average recoveries were in the 50s. They're now in the 80s.
Wow.
There's about a good 10% left to go that we believe, and that's what we're really focused on now. So we put out an updated scoping study. We're now working well into the PFS. We're also working on some new metallurgical techniques, whole ore leaching, which sounds boring, but trust me, isn't.
No, we're all about the types of production here and types of drilling and ore bodies and everything. So tell us everything.
So that, the most recent update increased the economics over $1.2 billion pre-tax, $802 million post-tax. We're getting a nice big credit from the Future Made in Australia policy. So this is a very economic project right now. Pre-production capex under 350 million Aussie.
That's very low.
It's
for any investors out there who don't know about CapEx. We know the lower the CapEx, the better because of higher margin appreciation.
Yes.
But that's a very low CapEx. How did you manage that?
So juniors like to play games, right? You see an upfront CapEx of X and it's actually 5X.
Yeah. So low ball it.
Exactly. So the pre-production CapEx, that gets you into concentrate production, gets you early cash flow at about 330. And that's because at the moment, the base case plan is a relatively simple concentrate production from the open pits.
Yeah.
We then get into the downstream, and that adds about another 250 mil to the total CapEx bill. So to be very upfront, you're looking at about a peak financing requirement of about $550 billion. That gets you, and this is a really exciting bit, it gets you battery grade cobalt sulfate.
Wow.
From the world's most renewable energy grid.
Yeah.
In pretty much the world's lowest sovereign risk jurisdiction. And look at DRC right now restricting cobalt exports. You've got Glencore absolutely pumping out cobalt as well. We're talking about major production, about 1,400 tons of cobalt per annum.
Yeah.
At a battery grade, together with silver doré.
Wow.
And the copper at cathode copper.
So we're not just one mineral company, we've got 3.
And we're not talking about complex metallurgy here. It's a simple flotation into an Albion circuit, which is used all over the world. We're not talking about expensive complex pyrometallurgy, no roasters. Our cobalt is a pure cobalt copper sulfide. It's not locked up with iron, for example.
Yeah.
And so we have so many advantages. And I think one of our headwinds is that there are so many challenging projects out there in terms of CapEx with the nickel cobalt projects or the mineralogy with cobalt locked up with iron, that I think people miss how many advantages we have.
Yeah.
Especially with that sort of cobalt boom that happened a few years ago.
Yeah.
So we're here to stay with cobalt. We believe in it very well. And that downstream processing is an absolute huge advantage for our project.
Yeah. Now, Elizabeth Creek isn't your only asset in your portfolio. What other assets do you have at the Coda portfolio that kind of diversifies the revenue potential for you?
The main revenue diversification, obviously open pits, underground, Elizabeth Creek, they're downstream.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, 95% of my time is focused on Elizabeth Creek. It is our flagship.
Yeah.
We've advanced it a lot. We've got a lot of work ongoing at the moment, as I mentioned, whole ore leaching.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we've got a property in Queensland.
Oh, wow.
We did some exploration on that.
Yeah.
We've identified some anomalies worth following up, but I'll be very frank, I'm not sure I'd want to put money into that when we
you've
get
got
so much
potential
return out of Elizabeth Creek.
Absolutely.
We have got some assets in South Eastern Australia, just together with Boss Energy. So we own the copper, they own the uranium rights.
Wow.
And we're just starting some geophysics on that at the moment.
What a great JV. We know Boss very well.
It's a great JV because Boss is a very large company.
Yeah.
Duncan's a great bloke. We work together
operator.
very well, great operator. And so, to be honest, they're quite generous with the way that we do some of this. We share a lot of data.
Yeah.
More heads, more brains, more geologists.
Yeah.
So it's a very low cost way for Coda to deal with greenfields exploration. And let's be honest, greenfields exploration is where the real magic happens when you get a discovery.
It's very exciting when you come across something.
But it ain't easy for juniors.
No, it's not.
So sharing the majority of the admin costs with Boss, paying those, sharing data, it's a really nice way to do it. So it's fairly exciting, but it's a very small part of our focus.
Yeah.
We are keeping an eye out for opportunistic projects as well. Certainly anything that adds to Elizabeth Creek on the Gawler Craton makes a huge amount of sense to us.
Yeah.
And I believe in copper. And
so does a lot of the market right now.
And good projects do come up, so we're keeping an eye out. But yeah, Elizabeth Creek's where it's at for us.
Chris, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed that episode of From the Helm with Coda Minerals. Keep an eye on Coda Minerals and copper over the next 12 months. And if you did enjoy that episode, please subscribe to the Bell Direct YouTube channel to stay up to date with all market commentary, exclusive interviews and market insights.